Most people think that the cure for financial struggle is simply to make more money. But if you give a poor person with poor financial habits a raise, they don't get rich, they just get bigger bills. The truth is your financial destiny isn't determined by how much money hits your bank account, okay? It is determined by what direction that money flows the moment it arrives. Today, we are breaking down the three distinct cash flow patterns of the poor, the middle class, and the rich, and the mental thought patterns. Understanding these three loops along with the thought patterns are the exact turning point between working for money your whole life and having money work for you. Let's get started. Hey guys, I am Tanin Pradhan. Today, we will learn the cash flow patterns of the poor, the middle class, and the rich. And disclaimer, I am not a certified financial advisor and am not selling any investment advices here. This video is meant to be taken as educational rather than an investment advice, and a big thank you to Rich Dad Poor Dad for making this video possible, because what I'm going to discuss in this video is taken from his book. Today we will discuss the cash flow pattern of an asset, a liability, the cash flow patterns of the poor, the middle class, and the rich, and the important part of the video, which is the mental thought pattern of each of them. Throughout the entire video, please use the definitions. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Do not use the definitions. An asset is something that you own. A liability is something that you owe. Do not use it, because we are going to study the cash flow patterns taken from Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that is why we will be using his Robert Kiyosaki's definition. Okay, and let's start the video. This right here is the cash flow pattern of an asset. If you want to understand this thing in detail, then I have created a separate video on this, and I highly recommend you watch that so that learning this video becomes very easy for you. This right here is a financial statement. It comprises of the income statement and the balance sheet. Income statement comprises of income and expenses, and balance sheet comprises of assets and liabilities. Okay, this is the cash flow pattern of an asset. The arrow basically shows that assets are generating income and putting money in your pocket. Okay, so this is the definition of an asset, and anything that puts money in your pocket is an asset. You can see assets are putting money in your pocket. Even liabilities can become assets if they put money in. Okay, that's basically it. This right here is the cash flow pattern of a liability. The definition is a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Okay, you can see the arrow starts from the liability column, and then it gets into the expense column, and then gets out from there. Okay, so how liability takes money is but if you have mortgage, or if you have taken a car loan, okay, you have to pay monthly payments for that, and this is how liabilities take money in the form of expenses. Okay, anything that takes money is a liability. Takes money out is a liability. Even assets will become liabilities if they take money out. Understanding the cash flow patterns in Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki provides a clear framework to identify the poor, the middle class, and the rich based on cash flow patterns. This is key. He defines rich based on cash flow patterns, their behavior, not income or how much money they earn or their net worth. Okay, because these groups are defined entirely by their mindset and habits rather than income, you can spot them by looking at how they speak, how they view risk, and where their money flows on their financial statements. Keep in mind that Robert Kiyosaki doesn't explicitly mention in the book of identifying the poor, middle class, and rich based on how they speak or how they view risk or other factors. Okay, but this is what I've discovered after watching his books and contents. After reading his books and watching his videos again and again. Okay, this is the realization that I've come to. I believe this was the message he was trying to deliver through his contents. If you pay full attention throughout the entire video, you will come to this exact realization, because this is how it works. That is because the cash flow pattern should be used as a guide and not like plain diagrams. Okay, and that is why I want you guys to pay your undivided attention throughout the entire video, because what I'm going to discuss in this video, you will not find them in books or videos. Note that the purpose of the following cash flow patterns of the poor, the middle class, and the rich, its purpose is to show the mental thought pattern each group has, okay, regarding money. The mental thought pattern, their behavior, their relationship with money once they have the money. Okay, Robert Kiyosaki basically defines poor, middle class, and rich based on a person's financial habit. Okay, a person's mental thought pattern, not based on how much money a person makes or how much net worth they have. Okay, it's purely based on spending habits, and this is key to understand. These patterns show a person's spending habits, and you should use the financial statement from Rich Dad Poor Dad to understand your financial health, and that is how it works. Okay, and keep that in mind. The cash flow pattern basically shows a person's money spending habit, their mental thought pattern regarding money. Okay, that's basically it. and this is the observation that I've come across. Okay, so this right here is the cash flow pattern of a poor person. The diagram shows that the poor are defined by one habit, directing money into the expense column to immediately cover survival or short-term desire. As you can see, once they have money, they basically spend it out at one go. They spend money on covering their basic needs or short-term desires, short-term pleasures, okay? It does not matter how much money a person makes. If they just spend it all on basic needs and short-term desires, they are poor people. Even if you have high-paying job, if this is your cash flow pattern, which is just to spend, you are a poor person, like according to this cash flow pattern, and not on your net worth or your income. Based on your income, you may be rich, but this is your cash flow pattern, okay? And they have nothing in their balance sheet. That's because they have nothing left at the end of the month to buy any assets or liabilities, okay? Okay, so they spend their money on immediate needs and wants, leaving no excess money. Because of this mindset, money flows directly from the income to expense, okay? As you can see right here, it goes straight to the income column and then out of the expense column. They earn money and they spend it, okay, leaving nothing behind to feel future security, which is why their balance sheet is empty. Okay, so we will learn in detail about the poor. They view money as a resource strictly for immediate survival or pleasure, okay? They basically spend money on like basic needs or pleasure, okay? So their spending pattern, which is income that straight goes to the expense, okay? They just spend money when they have money, okay? Money comes in the form of paycheck and goes directly out for rent, food, taxes, and cheap entertainment, which is pleasure. Their asset and liability columns are completely empty because they have nothing to buy. They have no money to buy, okay, because they spend it all. Their core habits: working completely for immediate cash, avoid any long-term financial planning because tomorrow isn't guaranteed, complaining about a lack of money while spending any extra windfall, like a tax refund on immediate consumption items. They do not spend money on financial education, okay? That is why they do not understand good expenses, bad expenses, which is a topic for another video. And so how to identify them, okay? So what they say: I can't afford it, I will never be rich, or investing is only for the rich people. So their lifestyle: they live paycheck to paycheck. No matter how much their income increases, their expenses automatically rise to match it perfectly, leaving them with zero savings or investments, okay? Like, you know, income equals to expense, and that is why they have zero to invest or save, okay? This right here is the cash flow pattern of a middle class, okay? The diagram shows that the middle class are defined by one habit: directing money into the liability column first, which is, you know, salary comes in and then it immediately, they immediately have to pay for their liabilities in the form of loan, like in the form of monthly payments, okay? Mistakenly believing they're buying assets. Their bankers say your asset is something that you own, which is your house. Your liability is something that you owe, which is your mortgage, okay? That is why they buy cars, you know, expensive cars and big houses. For this reason, they don't understand that these things are taking money out of their pocket. That is why they keep suffering, okay? So once money enters into their income column, which means once they get money, they straightly have to use that money to pay their monthly payments, okay? So that is why you can see that the arrow then goes into the liability column and then out of the expense column. It basically means that once they get their salary, they basically use that salary to make the monthly payments, okay? And they make the monthly payments for the liabilities that they own. Because they own a lot of liabilities, they also have a lot of expenses, and this relation is key. They buy things that constantly take money out of their pockets, okay? A lot of liabilities, forcing them to work harder just to keep up with the debt. Because of this mindset, their money gets trapped in a loop: income, liabilities, and expense, okay? This thing keeps running over and over again, and they keep buying liabilities over and over again. Throughout the entire video, you will notice that your mental thought pattern determines which cash flow pattern you will end up with. Mental thought pattern basically means how you view money, how you spend money. Like, your mental thought pattern, in short, is basically your habit of spending money the moment it hits your hands. If you can change it, you will be able to break free from your financial problem depending on which cash flow pattern you are currently in. Okay, so I want to add that you just have to follow the arrow and where it goes, because your cash flow, which basically means where your money goes after you have it, okay? This is the thing that determines your mental thought pattern or your mindset related to money. Okay, so let's understand the cash flow pattern of the middle class. The middle class is trapped in a psychological loop Robert Kiyosaki calls the rat race, okay? Rat race basically means you earn money, your money gets spent on covering expenses and liabilities, and then you repeat that again and again. You can't break out of this cycle. This becomes a cycle. They are often highly educated, earn high salaries, but remain financially fragile because they confuse liabilities with assets. You can see even highly educated people earn like high salary earners, they suffer, okay? And that is due to the lack of financial education. And that is why even though you earn a lot of money, like your income, you have high income, but you can still have the cash flow pattern of a poor person. This is key. Sounds strange, but like once you study finance, you will understand why it happens. So their money spending habit. So they have income which directly goes into the expense, which directly goes into the liabilities, and they come out of expense column, okay? Income goes to covering the monthly payments for the liabilities, mortgage and car loan, and then they get out of the expense column. Okay, so money comes in from a job, they immediately use it to fund monthly payments for liabilities, a large home mortgage, credit cards, car loans, boat financing. You can see these liabilities can generate massive ongoing expenses. You see, they are stuck, okay? Ongoing expenses, they are stuck in this cycle, and this is what rat race is, okay? And a separate video can be made on that. Poor habits, okay? So buying status symbols to look wealthy rather than actually becoming wealthy. There's a difference between looking wealthy and becoming actually wealthy. And they buy expensive cars, big flashy houses, and a lot of things, okay? So they value job security, valuing job security above all else, because their high debt requires a steady predictable income, okay? Because if they lose their job, they won't be able to make them monthly payments, believing that their higher income or a bigger house will solve financial problems, which is not the case. They do not spend money on financial education, and they listen to their bankers and friends for financial advisors. For example, your asset is something that you own, okay? This is what their bankers say, this is what their friends say, and this is why all keep suffering the same thing. So how to identify them? So what they say: my house is my biggest asset, I need a secure job with good benefits, or I'm taking out a loan to buy this. But it's okay because the monthly payment fits my budget. You can see how they view money, their lifestyle. They have nice cars, large homes, and expensive clothes, but they are deeply stressed. If they lose their job, their entire lifestyle collapses within a few months because the liability keeps demanding money while their income stops. You can see if they lose their job, they can't make the payments, and their liabilities will be taken because their bank will take them, okay? If you have read Rich Dad's Cashflow Quadrant, then you will find a lot of similarities, because Robert Kiyosaki explained the 7 levels of investors, and you can find many characteristics popping up over here. Okay, this right here is the cash flow pattern of a rich person. You can see their assets are putting money into their income column. The rich are defined by one habit: directing money into the asset column before anything else, okay? Whenever the rich have money, they basically buy assets, okay? They try to buy assets, okay? That's where their mind is, okay? And that is why they have a lot of asset, and they try to keep the liabilities low, okay? And they spend their money on buying assets, like things that produce income, okay? Money. Because of this, their money flows from assets to income. You can see assets to income, providing them with more income each month, okay? Their assets produce money for them, and that is why they have a lot of income sources. As you can see, their cash flow pattern is directly connected to their mental thought pattern of spending money, or their mindset of spending money, okay? The rich are wired to buy assets. Their mental thought pattern is whenever I have money, I will buy assets, okay? And this is what happens, okay? What their mental thought pattern is basically leads them to take actions, and which basically leads them to buy whatever the mental thought pattern is, which is if a mental thought pattern is to buy assets, I will buy assets. If a mental thought pattern is to buy things which give me pleasure, I will buy those things. Your mental thought pattern basically determines which things you will buy, okay? Your mindset, whether I want to use my money on buying this thing or that thing, okay? Assets or liabilities, okay? This works like this. The rich are wired to buy assets, which helps them to build wealth. So it can be said that their mental thought pattern determines their action, which leads them to buy assets. It applies to everyone. You will understand this in just a few minutes when I explain the mental thought patterns. And a good news is that they are changeable, okay? They are breakable once you know what your cash flow pattern is. And this is what this video is about. Okay, so let's learn about the rich in detail. So the rich view money as a tool to make more money. You see, they buy more assets. They do not work for money. They create or buy assets that work for them. So their spending pattern is basically they buy assets, and their assets generate income for them. They direct their available money straight into the asset column first: real estate, stocks, private placements, intellectual property, businesses. Okay, they spend their money over there. These assets generate cash flow for them, which flows upward to become their primary source of income. Okay, so I'm not selling any financial advices. Okay, this video is an educational one. Keep that in mind. Okay, their core habits: paying themselves first. Okay, before paying bills or luxuries, they buy assets. You see, focusing on acquiring income producing assets rather than increasing their salary. You see their mindset: learning how to manage risk instead of avoiding it out of fear, using debt strategically to buy assets, with good debt rather than to buy consumer goods, bad debt. Okay, good debt and bad debt, this is a topic for another video basically. Okay, so let's not go over there. How to identify them, what they say, how can I afford it, what is the return on investment, ROI, basically what profit I'm going to make on the investment. That's what return on investment means. Or what asset can I buy to pay for this luxury. Their lifestyle: their time is their own because their asset cover their living cost. Okay, they may live modestly while building their asset column, only buy luxury cars or big homes after their assets are large enough to pay for those luxuries completely. Okay, they use the cash flow from their assets to buy luxuries. Okay, this is key to understand. All right, so I want you guys to pay close attention to this section of the video because this is the most important and key part of the video. Okay, once you understand and apply it, your life will change completely. Let's start. Okay, so the 3 cash flow habits: the mental thought pattern of the poor, the middle class, and the rich. Okay, Robert Kiyosaki basically argues that your cash flow patterns tells the story of how you think about money the moment it hits your hand. Okay, and the previous diagrams of the cash flow patterns that we have seen, they basically show what you think about money. Okay, so let's start with the poor. The poor, their cash flow pattern is when they have income, they will spend. Okay, which is expenses. Okay, their mental thought pattern is survival and consumption. Money is strictly a tool to survive or buy immediate things. When I will have money, I will either spend it on basic needs or spend it for pleasure. Okay, as soon as income arrives, it flows directly out for basic needs or temporary pleasures. Okay, and the middle class, their cash flow pattern is basically when my income comes, I have to pay it. I have to pay for my liabilities because I have to pay the monthly payments, and that basically the liabilities take money out. Okay, the illusion of wealth: money is used to buy status symbol. Okay, a bigger home, a nicer car, disguised as asset. They think I make more money so I can afford a bigger monthly payment. Okay, and this is how they trap themselves in the rat race. Okay, the rich, their assets put money in their pocket. Okay, their assets make income for them, and for them, money is a tool to buy employees, assets that work for them. Their primary thought is, how can I use this dollar to buy something that makes me more dollar. Okay, they spend their money on things that produce them income. Okay, and that's basically it. And this is the key part of the video. Okay, think of the mental thought patterns as a software. Okay, computer's performance or computer's function is limited to how it's programmed. Okay, to give you an example, let's say you have an expensive calculator which is programmed to do only additions. Okay, that calculator can do additions but no multiplications, no subtractions. Okay, because that is how it's programmed. Similarly, a person who has a mental thought pattern or who is programmed to spend money when it hits their hand, or to buy liabilities to show off when they have money because they believe that they can use their high income to pay the monthly payments. Like if they're programs like that, then you can see their mental thought pattern basically will lead them to act, and then they will basically get the consequences of their actions. Okay, and that's basically it. Okay, think of the mental thought pattern as a software. Okay, and it applies to everyone. Okay, so the cash flow patterns basically show us the mental thought patterns of the rich, the poor, the middle class, how they view money, how they spend money. Okay, mental thought pattern basically means how you spend money. Okay, how you view money as your mindset with money. That's the key. Okay, and this is the very thing you need to identify. What is your mental thought pattern? What is your software? When what do you want to do when you have money? Okay, this is what you need to identify, because once you identify it, you will know what to change. Okay, you don't need other people to tell you, okay, so you should do this or that. Okay, you will know by yourself. Okay, because you're smart. Okay, this is how cash flow pattern serves as a guide. The key is first to identify what your thought pattern is, which is your software, and then reprogram it or change your behavior, change your habit. Okay, and as we're human beings, we can change and break our habits. Okay, that's the good news. If you know where your problems lie, you can fix that. Okay, people unknowingly get into these programs because of the conditioning that they go through, and it's not their fault. Okay, in short, cash flow, it basically means the direction where your money goes, tells the story of how a person handles money. Okay, and it's important. By the way, please note that your mental thought pattern gives clues or evidences. Okay, they give you clues as to what you are doing. Okay, how you spend money or behavior. They can be broken or changed. Okay, this means that you can get the clues, or you can use the clues to identify what your current thought pattern is, or your current cash flow pattern is, and then you can break the pattern. Okay, to conclude, I believe Robert Kiyosaki created those simple visual diagrams of the income statement and balance sheet so that beginners could literally see their own thought patterns on paper after they've filled out the financial statement from Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you can read your spending pattern like a data, you can diagnose your mental thought pattern and consciously choose to change it. Okay, it helps you identify your current mental thought pattern. Okay, and then you change it. Okay, the cash flow pattern of the poor, the middle class, and the rich show the spending habits and patterns. This is key. They don't define rich and poor based on how much income one makes. Okay, it shows the mental thought pattern one has on spending money. It does not define rich, poor, and middle class based on net worth or income or properties. This is key. It defines them through cash flow patterns and their spending habits. I am sorry to say, but if your cash flow pattern basically looks like that of the poor and you have high income, that means you are poor according to this cash flow pattern, but that's how it is. Okay, and yeah, it defines them through cash flow patterns and the spending habits. Okay, just as an additional calculator cannot subtract, a person programmed with the poor or middle class software literally cannot build wealth no matter how much money they have. For it, you have to change it. You have to identify and then change it. Okay, to change the physical cash flow, a person must rewrite the code running in their mind through financial education. That is why financial education is key. For the poor, money flows directly from income to expenses. They spend their money, leaving nothing behind to build future security. Okay, that is why their financial balance sheet is empty. For the middle class, their money gets trapped in a loop. Okay, they have income, they have to pay for the liabilities and the next. Okay, for the rich, their money flows from asset. Okay, their assets generate them income, which provides them with more income each month. Okay, so your mental thought pattern gives evidence or clues of how you spend money. Okay, these are changeable, they are not permanent. Okay, so if you want to make the most of this video, here is what I want you to do. And by the way, this is a guide, okay, not financial advice. Okay, I want you to watch the video on the financial statements that I have created. I highly recommend you watch that. Or you can just simply start with filling out your financial statement the financial statement from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay, so write the income, expenses, what assets you have, what liabilities you have, like income sources and how much expenses and what you spend money on. Okay, after filling out your financial statement, then add an arrow, like basically add the arrow. Okay, is like, do you have any asset, and does that asset put money in your pocket, or do you have a lot of liabilities, or and that are taking money out of your pocket. Okay, and once you do it, match your cash flow pattern with that of the poor, the middle class, or the rich. Okay, once you match, you will be able to know what the problem is. Is it because you have a lot of expenses, or like you spend money once you have money, or you have a lot of liabilities okay, and after you know what the problem is, just change the pattern. Okay, and after filling out your financial statement, you will you'll be able to basically identify your mental thought pattern. Okay, or your mindset. Okay, and that's the key. And once you change it, it will hugely benefit you, and that is why I highly recommend you watch the video to the full, like the financial statement video, and the link for that will be in the description, because it will hugely benefit you. Okay, or you can comment below to tell me if you want to make me a video on that. So what the rich do, and this is not a financial advice. Okay, so they buy assets with their income. Okay, their mindset, mental thought pattern related to money is to buy assets first. Okay, as you have seen, they buy assets first. They understand the need for education and finance, and they constantly invest on educating themselves on these subjects. Okay, and if you want to educate yourself on finances like the rich do, then you can join my newsletter or subscribe to my channel. You can join my newsletter with the link in the description, or you can visit richdad.com. By the way, I'm not paid by them. They are not paying me to add their website over here, but it will provide you with value, and this is where you should start. Or you can visit or you can watch many financial videos or tutorials available on the internet, and that's basically it. Okay, so thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure to like, share it with someone who might need it. Comment to tell me what you thought of the video and what you learned. If you have any confusions, tell me in the comment below, or tell me if you have any future video suggestions. Join my newsletter with the link in the description. If you want this video as a newsletter, you then go to the description and click the link to read it. Watch the video I told you to watch. Watching this video will basically make this one more digestible. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you guys in the next video.